One of the most common things that I see with feminines that I work with, and even those who comment on my posts or even show up in my DMs, is many feminines think and believe that they are truly healed and that they are coming from this place of detachment. When the reality is, and if I'm honest with all of you, and this is what I see within the collective a lot, and what other coaches are preaching is that you have to detach, that you have to detach and let your twin flame go. And while some of that stuff is valid, it doesn't encompass everything. Because when you actually detach, what happens is that you don't feel the intensity of the connection anymore. And when you detach, what happens is you're not checking in, you're not reacting, and you're not chasing anymore. And for a lot of you, that feels like peace. And what you don't realize is that this is actually a pattern that you have been living out and playing out time and time again, which is why it feels like peace and why it feels so familiar. But what I want to talk about today is that's not healing. That's not detachment that we want to get into. That's coming from a place of protection. And I want you to think about where it is that you're at your journey right now and to see and to ask yourself, to connect with yourself. Allow your body, allow your intuition to speak to you, not your mind. Your mind will always say things like, yeah, but, like it has to defend itself. And whenever your ego and your mind is defending itself, it's an opportunity for you to say, okay, that's my mind. What is my heart telling me? What is my body telling me? What is my soul telling me? And I want you to ask yourself, if you're feeling like you're detached, are you coming from a place of protection, or are you coming from a place of alignment? So let's actually identify and talk about the pattern that I see most common in this case. And as many of you know, especially if you've been following me for a little while, is like one of the things that I'm really good at is pattern recognition within myself, within others, within our collective, within almost every job that I've ever had. I can identify pattern recognition. And when I can connect with others, I can see their pattern and help them understand what it is that they're meant to see and experience from this pattern and what the steps are actually to do for them to in order to break that pattern. And a lot of people, they when we're doing this work, they don't always understand how to break the pattern. What are the steps? So they find themselves going into the same pattern time and time again. But I want to break down what is actually happening when you feel like you detached, because I see this so many times in my comments. I see this in other content that is out there, and it's been happening for quite some time. And so what I see is that when the feminines detach, it's coming from this place of like you're convincing yourself not to care. And the reality is it's impossible not to care for your twin flame. It's impossible not to love your twin flame. It also looks like you've pulled back your energy. You've completely removed yourself from the connection. You removed yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, and energetically. And for a lot of you, you put these walls of protection up, which you think are boundaries. But boundaries aren't meant to be created from a place of fear. They're meant to be created from this place of love where you're honoring you and you're communicating and letting people know what's acceptable to you and what's not. Other ways this shows up is like the feminine starts shutting down her desires. She starts losing her desire to want to be in union. And part of this is because there's a part of her that is afraid that if she truly honors this desire and allows it to like literally blindly lead her that this desire isn't going to happen, or even worse, she is going to get hurt. But what I also see on the other side of things is that the collective says, oh, you shouldn't want to be with your twin flame. If you're still wanting to be with your twin flame, then you haven't healed enough. You haven't done the work. But the reality is this connection is intense. It is deep. It is a spiritual connection, and it's part of our soul's path and plan. And so that desire isn't coming from your ego, it's coming from that God source part of you that says, I desire this because this is part of my journey, part of my experience. And then I also see too this disconnection from this part of them that wants other things in life. Perhaps you want to be successful in whatever it is that you do. You want abundance. You want to travel. You want to have this great life. When you're in this place of detachment, you're actually detaching yourself from the love that you have within yourself. And it actually depletes your magnetism. And and when we do this, it's because a lot of times the feminine has felt unsafe. And when she feels unsafe, it's really hard for the feminine to actually stay open and to be magnetic. Because when she's detaching, it's coming from this place of emotional safety. And if you think about your relationships, and this is how I started discovering some of my patterns, was I went back and I looked at all of my relationships that I had, all of them. And there were common themes in there. I was trying to control the connection. I was chasing. I was grasping. I had this fear of abandonment. I was had a fear of rejection. I had this thing where I felt like I needed to compete and all of this stuff with like their time and their energy. Not normally like with other people until like I found out like if they were cheating or not. But I realized that I had these patterns, and so I had to change those parts of me. I had to heal parts of me. And one of the patterns, I remember talking to one of my family members about it, and this was a pattern that was like a generational thing, was this detachment, and where you completely remove yourself from a situation, from a connection, from whatever, because you're afraid of rejection. You're afraid of abandonment. You're afraid of being let down and disappointed because let's face it, you're afraid also too to get your heart broken again. And these are things that we have experienced time and time again. So of course it's going to feel natural for you to want to detach from your twin flame. So let's talk about why detachment can oftentimes feel like you're coming from this place of healing. Because the thing that I want to remind a lot of you is that many people that are teaching and coaching in the twin flame community are teaching and coaching about concepts, things that maybe they haven't lived or experienced. And maybe they have intellectualized these things. And when I teach about things, it's because I've come from the place of experience. I've come from the place of embodiment, which is why when I talk about things, when I say if something's resonating with you, to take that as your own truth and to utilize discernment, because not everything is meant for you to be part of your experience. And a lot of times in the collective, like I've mentioned before, is that we're told to detach. You have to detach, you have to let them go. You shouldn't desire or want to be with your twin flame. If you are, then you're not healed. And that's where the confusion comes in this journey. This is where the confusion comes in understanding detachment and non-detachment or non-attachment. And what happens is when you're coming from this place of detachment, which is a form of protection, you're not feeling the same intensity. You're not feeling the same pull that you once had towards your twin flame. You're not as triggered as often. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably don't even allow yourself to think about your twin flame. Or if you have an urge to reach out, you're like, nope, forget him. I don't want anything to do with him. And you feel what some will say, like they'll feel more calm, like they feel more at peace. And it's not because the patterns that you have been experiencing prior to this is gone. It's actually the fact that the pattern went into protection. And what I mean by that is your your body, the way that you're navigating things is coming from a state of survival. And it's important to understand that a lot of times we're navigating from survival patterns where we've been caught up in fight or flight. And oftentimes some people are even in a freeze response or a fawning response. And so it's important to understand how your body operates and how your mind actually operates as well. Because when your nervous system is saying, this doesn't feel safe, it says we're also going to shut down, which then gets you into that freeze response. Because when your nervous system shuts down and it gets into a freeze response, it actually doesn't want to do anything. And I know this all too well because I've experienced this multiple times on my journey. And I still have it come up as I'm healing my nervous system more and learning how to regulate my system more, is that when I'm in a freeze response, there's no movement. Like it's like you have your foot on the gas and the brake pedal at the same time. And I want you to know that your pattern of detaching just doesn't happen in your relationships, like your romantic relationship or your twin flame journey. This is probably played out over and over and over in your life. So I always teach you guys in my teachings and in my posts that what's happening in your twin flame journey is also going to be happening in your life, or what's happening in your life is most likely going to be happening in your twin flame journey as well. And these patterns tend to run throughout your life. And when you withdraw, when things feel too intense or when things feel too vulnerable, that's a form of protection. That's a form of detachment. Or when you shut down, when you feel exposed, or disconnecting from your desire in the moment because it feels unsafe. Because let's talk about union, for example. I know a lot of you desire union. Some of you are in various stages of your journey. Some of you might be still in the attached phase where you're navigating from your attachment wound, where you're chasing still, you're grasping, you're yearning. And then some of you might be in the not or the detached phase where you're in this place of protection. And so you've removed yourself, which is why your twin flame doesn't reach out to you and why like they can't even like find you. Like when I was talking about this in another video, what I saw was like a lighthouse on like a on like a huge rock, a lighthouse, but the light was dim. And think about that for a moment. Like, what does a lighthouse stand for? It's a like a beacon of light where boats and like things like that know where to go. And that's what happens when you go into this place of protection. Your light dims. You're no longer a beacon of light for your desires, for your life, and even for your twin flame. Because your twin flame will see your light and know where it is that they need to go and to be able to follow you in the healing and the work that they need to do. And so when we disconnect from our desires because it feels unsafe, it's because our body says it's unfamiliar. And anything unfamiliar to your body, which is union, is going to feel unsafe. And it's important to understand that because it's not wrong for having a desire to have union. What I like to differentiate is that you shouldn't be chasing after it, you shouldn't be wanting it, and you shouldn't be needing it. Those are very different energies. Those are coming from this place of it's outside of me, therefore I'm separate from it. When a desire lands in your heart and it lands in your body and it can feel safe, It means that your body is able to receive that, to accept that part. And many of you aren't there yet, and that's okay, because it doesn't mean that the desire is wrong. It just means your body is unable to hold union right now, because you have to understand what union brings. Union brings vulnerability, it brings visibility, it brings up more wounds, more things for you to see. And it calls you to be open and available to life, to your desires, and to your masculine. So I already touched on this a little bit, but I want to talk about the cost of protection. What is actually happening when you're in protection mode, when you're in what others are telling you to do is to detach. So you're in this protection mode, and this is where the cost of things is very subtle, but it's actually significant, because when you're in protection mode, as I mentioned before, you're actually in a state of survival. And union and love cannot coexist in a state of survival. I know this because I've experienced it in myself. And one of the things I've been watching in myself is my how is my body? Where are my shoulders at? Where's my neck at? All of those things are teaching me about my ability to stay open. And like I can even tell you, like right now, like here on my chest, there's some like at times intensities of where it feels like my skin is being pulled down. And part of that is because my heart is trying to close and to protect myself. Because I recently had an experience that put me back into a state of survival, a state of fear. Because fear and love and survival fear and survival can't coexist with love. And so when you're in this state of protection, you're literally just surviving. And when you're in survival, like I said, your heart isn't open, your body isn't open. So everything in your life begins to slow down. Everything begins to come to a halt. And I want you to look at in your life, where are you not fully available and honoring your desires? And I want you to be honest with yourself, because that's the only way that you can see things. Where is it that you're not honoring parts of you? And I encourage you to dig into your shadow, because 85 to 90% of your shadow is really incredible things. The part of you that wants success, the part of you that wants abundance, the part of you that wants to travel, the part of you that wants a really full life. And then look at, where are you not available for connection? Not just in your twin flame journey, but with your relatives, with your friends, with your coworkers. Where is it that you're not available for connection? And when I talk about connection, I'm not talking about allowing everyone into your life and having access to you, because that's not what I'm talking about. Because I believe you have to have discernment. You have to discern into whether or not somebody is meant to have a connection with you or to have access to you. And so, where is it that within your circle of people that actually open you up in this really beautiful way, where you can have these deep, vulnerable connections? Where are you avoiding that in your life? Because I will tell you time and time again, the way that I have been able to create more intimacy with myself and with my friends and stuff is through those connections, because I have connections that allow me to be fully seen without judgment, to be held without having to fix me, to be supported without, telling me what it is that I need to do. And so I've got to practice these things with other coaches and healers that I have worked with. And so it transfers into other areas of your life. So you have an opportunity to practice these things with others before you actually have to do these things with your twin flame. So then you can start creating that safety within your body. Another way this shows up is that when you're in the state of detachment from protection, you're actually disconnected from yourself. You're disconnected from your body, you're disconnected from your intuition, you're disconnected from your path. And so you end up in these like in between spaces a lot, where you're not fully in one space and you're not fully in another either. Like you're in this floating space. And if you ever feel that way, it's important for you to ask yourself, am I actually in the void, in this place of non-detachment, which I'll talk about in a moment? Or am I actually in this void because I'm detached? And I spent a lot of time in the void from a place of detachment and didn't even realize that I was there until like the last couple of years where I started thinking and seeing things like, oh my gosh, this is a pattern. I'm caught into survival. Like this is what I always do. And I had to look at why. So I want to talk about the difference between detachment and non-detachment, or detachment and non-attachment. And I like to think of non-attachment as sacred detachment. And that's what I've called it in other posts and other videos that I've had because it just feels, I don't know, more aligned to me. And it speaks to me more because there our journey is sacred. Our desires are sacred. And to come from this place of non attachment, it's a really sacred space because I don't want people to move into detachment. And I know some of you will, and that is your choice, right? And I can't prevent you from going there because some of you have to go there because of things that you are meant to learn. But for those of you that are like, I'm attached right now, I'm newer in this journey, I'm still attached. How do I get to sacred detachment, or what I call what is non-attachment? If you're wanting to do that, or perhaps you're in the detached and you want to get to the non attached, this is what we're going to do because detachment is actually, like I said, a form of protection. So we're closing our heart, we're shutting down our desires, we're shutting down our availability to life, and we're disconnecting to actually avoid the pain. That is the underlying root cause is you're disconnecting to avoid the pain. The pain of rejection I talked about, the abandonment, all of it. Non-attachment comes from this place of power. It comes from this place of staying open and available to your desires. It's staying connected to that desire no matter what is happening in the external reality. Because when you are coming from this place of non attachment, there's going to be uncertainty. And that is a fact because you don't know what lies ahead. And that uncertainty, if many of you are honest with yourself, terrifies you, which is why you control. You control because you don't like uncertainty. And the reason why you control is because you don't actually trust yourself. You don't trust yourself in the ability to take the next steps or actions that are required of you, which is why so many of you are navigating this path from your mind, which is why you keep getting caught up in the same loops versus tapping into your intuition and saying, where I am right now is perfect. And I trust in the knowing that I will receive the guidance of the next steps that I need to take in my journey. And when you're coming from this place of non attachment, you feel fully like you are fully alive. You are fully feeling your emotions, the highs and lows that can come with life, right? And you're not gripping or controlling. You're trusting in yourself, like I talked about, and trusting in the knowing that you're going to be able to take the steps that you are called to do, and to trust in knowing that you're actually going to receive them. Because I know some of you are terrified of that. Because non attachment says, I can want this, but not with, I can want this without losing myself in it. And I think that's a part of what a lot of feminines struggle with is not losing themselves in it because it was something that has actually been surfacing within me, actually in regards to my business. And there's a part of my soul that's saying it's time to expand, it's time to help and support more. And there's this part of me that is afraid that if I do, that I'm going to lose myself in it because that's what I've done in the past. That's what I've done in the past in like my direct sales business, in the work that I've done throughout my whole entire life. And I'm at a place in my journey where I don't want to abandon myself for love anymore. I don't want to abandon myself for success. I want to stay true to who it is that I am. So let's talk next about why the feminine actually avoids. And I know what many of you are saying is like, Melissa, there's no way I'm avoiding. I'm feeling my feelings and I'm doing all this work and stuff. But hear me out. Hear me out. And remember, if you're gonna be like, yeah, but Melissa, That is your ego trying to defend yourself and trying to not allow yourself to have access to your truth. And this is where things can get a little bit uncomfortable because non attachment, as I talk about, requires you to be in uncertainty. And uncertainty, I know, terrifies all of you. And I've gotten to the point now where uncertainty actually feels really normal and feels safe because what a lot of feminines don't realize, and no one really truly talks about this, is you get to a point in your journey where you're only in uncertainty. You're only in uncertainty because you have broken the pattern. So let's talk next about why the feminine avoids this. And I know what some of you are going to say. You're like, Melissa, there's no way that I avoid anything because I'm feeling my feelings. I'm doing all this inner work. And so I'm not avoiding. But the reality is, if you are chasing or you are detached, it is actually a form of avoiding because this is a part of the journey where it starts to get really uncomfortable when we get into this place of non attachment. Because as I was mentioning before, non attachment requires you to be in uncertainty. And that's the actual part of the work that many of you are avoiding. And I know this because I see it within the conversations I have with people, within people's actual energy when they're conversing with me, whether through a DM or a comment. And I see this time and time again in my one on one sessions because what starts to happen is you don't know what's going on anymore in uncertainty. And this is a part of my journey that is starting to become more and more comfortable because I'm not in a rush to get anywhere. I am actually slowing down and enjoying the journey and enjoying the process and the unfolding, and to realize that I'm not in control anymore. And I've recently been reading this book called The Mirror of Simple Souls, and it was written back in the 1300s by this French woman named Marguerite. And she talks about free will and how it's a gift that we have on planet Earth and as a human. And there comes a point in our time, in our journey of our soul's evolution, when we're ascending our consciousness, is that we give up that free will. And we start honoring our desires, honoring our truth, honoring what it is that we're here to experience, and trusting and knowing that whatever is unfolding because it's here for us to experience it. And I oftentimes think about how many times I probably have missed out on something amazing because I was trying to control, or how many times I delayed my journey or delayed some of the progress that I've made, that I've had, because I've been trying to control and I need to know what is going to happen. But you're not in control. I'm not in control. The universe is helping us orchestrate everything. And in this lifetime, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees that anything is going to happen because everyone else has free will as well. And when people are not at the same level of consciousness that you are, if you're desiring something, they may have an impact on that. Like, say you're desiring to be with your twin flame. And right now, where you have evolved, maybe you're a little bit farther ahead of them, and which is fine. But maybe because of that, right now, like the two of you are not a match, and that is okay. Because when you can allow yourself to be fully in that uncertainty, it's going to bring up some stuff for you to heal. And your nervous system is going to try to to protect you because that uncertainty feels unsafe. It feels so unsafe to your nervous system because it's unfamiliar, because your whole life you have been navigating from this place of control. Because the truth is, the mind will try to control you because it's part of its job. It's part of its job to protect you. But the more that you can navigate from your heart, from your soul, from your body, the easier that this journey is going to become. And to allow yourself to understand how your body communicates with you, because the mind will say detach, pull back, shut down, don't honor that because it's a threat. And I've talked about this time and time again. The biggest two threats to your ego is your relationship with God and your relationship with your twin flame. So here's the truth that I want all of you to know. And if you were to take away anything from this video, let it be this, is that detachment is not freedom. It's not. You're being constrained by your fears, your ego from past hurts and past traumas. It's protecting you. And that's not freedom. That's a state of survival. That's a state of fear, a state of fight, a state of flight. And trust me, living in there for a long periods of time is more damaging to your body than I can ever express in this video. But I want you to know the real power where it lies is for you being able to stay open, for you to be open and available to your desires and doing so without collapsing into the fear, into the control. Because the more that you go into this uncertainty, there's going to be times where you're going to want to go into the fear, allow the fear to take over and control you and close down your heart. Or when your heart is open and things are happening in a really amazing way in your life, there could be a part of you that says, it's time to pull back because I need to control. This could be too much. And instead, what you want to do is to be able to sit with those parts of you, sit with them, allow them to be there before you take any other steps in your life. So I want you to notice in your own life and in your twin flame journey, where is it that you said, I don't care anymore? Whether I don't care about my twin flame anymore, I don't care about this journey anymore, I don't care about stepping in my purpose, I don't care about whatever it is, right? Like I want you to think about what it is that you are saying in your journey in your life right now that I don't care. And ask yourself, is that actually your truth? Or is it a form of protection? Because the work isn't about not caring. The work is actually to stay connected to yourself while you do care and to feel while you're not abandoning yourself and to remain open without closing your heart, without losing your center, without losing your footage. Because that's the shift, that's the work. And that is the difference between protecting your heart and actually leading yourself. And that's where it is that this journey is helping you get to. And honestly, if you're struggling with it, it's okay because I struggled with it for a really long time, which is why I talk about it quite often and why I'm so passionate about bringing this topic back up to speak about it in different ways. Because when you're in this place of detachment, you're so disconnected from yourself and living in a state of survival. And no person, whether they're on the twin flame journey or not, needs to live in that state of survival. And if you're struggling with detachment, or perhaps you're attached still and you want to move into that place of non attachment, each week I have one on one sessions available to help you work through the specific scenario in your own personal journey and within your connection. So you can get to that place of non attachment and live from the freedom that your heart and soul desires you to live from. And if you're wanting to book a session, then I encourage you to click on the link down in my description box. And I would love to hear from you. You know, where is it that you have abandoned yourself and shut down your desires? And what is one thing that you can do to start opening yourself back up? And if this is resonating with you, I want to know what resonated with you and where have you in your life moved into this place of protection and to connect with that part of you and understand why. And I want you to know that if you are in this place, that it is okay. Like I've said in this video, I was there for a while and I've been in there in and out for most of my life. And I want to be able to help shift as many women to be in that place of non attachment. And so I want to thank you for joining me in this video. And I'm sending you all so much love and light. And I'm truly honored to be on this path with you and share with you what it is that I've learned. And I'll connect with you in the next video. Until next time.